Frontier Station hung in the void like a corroded chandelier, its docking arms extended in silent invitation to the passing starships. Through the observation deck's reinforced viewport, the station appeared to be teetering on the edge of an abyss, the last outpost before what many non-humans called the end of the galaxy. Lyra Cade knew better. It was just human space. She checked her chronometer. 0900 station time, year 2437. 5 minutes until her latest tour group arrived. 5 minutes of peace before she had to don her professional smile and guide another batch of thrill-seeking aliens through what they considered the most dangerous sector in known space. Another day, another credit, she muttered, adjusting the retired military-grade pulse pistol at her hip, a weapon she hadn't needed to fire in combat for years. Now, merely a prop for the authentic human danger experience. The docking alert chimed. Lyra straightened her utility vest and watched as the sleek, pearlescent shuttle eased into the berth. Too pristine, too elegant for this rough-edged station. It could only be carrying one client, the Mabari Prince. Perfect, she sighed. Royal entourages meant extra paperwork and inevitable complaints. But the paycheck for this expedition would be her ticket to retirement. One last tour. Then she could finally buy that quiet little habitat on Europa she'd been eyeing. The shuttle's airlock cycled, and 5 figures emerged. Lyra assessed them with the practiced eye of a veteran, both military and tour guide. First came the Mabari Royal, Prince Quaylen, encased in a shimmering environmental bubble that wasn't strictly necessary in human space, but served as a status symbol among his kind. Behind him trailed his diverse entourage, a stout Grell merchant with calculating eyes, an elderly Pella scholar clutching a data tablet, a gruff Dorak ex-military officer. Lyra could spot one of those a light year away. And lastly, a flamboyantly dressed Trill entertainment star whose hovering camera drones recorded every step. "Welcome to Frontier Station," Lyra announced, her voice carrying the confident edge that had once commanded troops. "I'm Lyra Cade, your expedition guide for the next 48 hours. You've signed up for the authentic human danger experience, a taste of why other species call us Deathworlders." Prince Quaylen's bubble pulsed with a dismissive blue light. "We are aware of what we purchased. Human. The question is whether your establishment can deliver the promised excitement without actual peril." Lyra's smile didn't waver. She'd dealt with his type before, entitled arrogant, convinced that humans exaggerated their resilience and the hazards of their native environments. "Your Highness, I guarantee you'll experience genuine human-grade adventure with carefully controlled risk parameters." She gestured toward the interior corridor. "If you'll follow me to the borderline, we can begin." The borderline, her ship, waited in the smaller docking bay reserved for expedition vessels. Unlike the Prince's gleaming shuttle, the borderline wore its scars proudly. The hull was patched in places, carbon scoring visible around the thrusters, but Lyra knew every centimeter of it was spaceworthy. Ugly, but reliable, just like humanity's reputation. As they boarded, the merchant, Grell, ran a stubby finger along a weld seam. "This vessel has seen considerable use. Are you certain it remains structurally sound?" "Sounder than anything fresh off the assembly line," Lyra replied. "Human engineering philosophy. If it survived this long, it'll survive longer." The Dorak ex-officer grunted in what might have been approval. At least one of them understood. Once inside, Lyra directed them to the passenger compartment. "Secure yourselves. We depart in 5 minutes for the Canis Minor asteroid belt. Our destination is abandoned mining facility KX-12, formerly operated by Terex Corporation until an oxygen recycler malfunctioned 17 years ago. It's been empty since, officially." The Trill Star's eyes widened dramatically for her camera drones. "Officially? You mean there could be squatters? Raiders?" Lyra tapped commands into the navigation console. "There are always rumors. Part of the experience is not knowing for certain. In truth, the facility had been swept clean by Lyra's team last week and prepped with carefully staged raider signs. Nothing that would trigger genuine alarm from someone with actual combat experience, but enough to give tourists their money's worth of controlled fear. The borderline disconnected from the station with a gentle shudder and accelerated toward the asteroid belt. Lyra settled into the pilot's chair, aware of the scholar, Pella, hovering just behind her. "I've studied human expansion patterns," Pella said, her voice carrying the particular blend of fascination and condescension common to non-human academics. "Your species pushed into territories others deemed uninhabitable with remarkable stubbornness." "Stubbornness is our specialty," Lyra replied without turning. "That and adapting to places that want to kill us." The journey to the asteroid belt took 3 hours. Lyra used the time to brief her clients on safety protocols, which environmental hazards were real and which were simulated, emergency rendezvous points, and how to use the basic filtration masks should the air scrubbers malfunction. Prince Quaylen listened with thinly veiled boredom. "These precautions seem excessive. My environmental bubble is rated for far more hostile conditions." "With respect, Your Highness," Lyra said, "in human space, we plan for when technology fails, not if." She'd seen too many aliens over-rely on their advanced tech, only to panic when it inevitably glitched in the unpredictable conditions of human territory. The borderline approached a pockmarked asteroid, roughly 7 kilometers in diameter. Embedded in its cratered surface was the abandoned mining facility, a collection of prefabricated domes connected by transport tunnels. Now dark except for the emergency lighting Lyra's team had restored. She guided the ship into a landing bay that had long since lost its atmospheric containment field. The borderline settled onto the landing pad with a soft thump, magnetic clamps engaging automatically. "We suit up here," Lyra announced, moving to the equipment locker. "Standard expedition gear, hardshell suits with 4 hours of oxygen, integrated comms, and basic medical support. Your Highness, your bubble should interface with our communication network, but I recommend taking a backup oxygen supply." The Dorak officer, who had introduced himself as Commander Torvak during the flight, efficiently checked his gear. "This facility, you said it was abandoned after a recycler malfunction. Were there casualties?" Lyra handed him a helmet. 7 dead, 15 evacuated. Standard mining accident for the era." "Yet they never reclaimed the facility?" Torvak pressed. "By the time the investigation cleared, new extraction technology made these types of operations obsolete." Lyra secured her own helmet. "Corporate economics, not danger, is what truly ended human expansion." Once everyone was suited up, Prince Quaylen insisting on keeping his bubble active over the hardshell suit, Lyra led them through the airlock and into the facility. The first section was a decompression chamber, now repurposed as an entry hall. Emergency lights cast long shadows across abandoned equipment. "We'll start with the main processing center, then move to the living quarters and, finally, the extraction tunnels," Lyra explained. "Keep your comms open and stay within visual range. Remember, we've prepared some surprises to enhance your experience, but nothing that will cause actual harm." The group moved deeper into the facility. Lyra had directed her prep team to arrange the perfect balance of authentic abandonment and theatrical threat. Tools left mid-task, a half-eaten meal fossilized by time, and the occasional ominous graffiti. "Humans rule here" was spray-painted across one bulkhead, a genuine tag left by salvagers years ago. The Trill Star, who had introduced herself as Elia Starlight, captured everything with her drones. "This is absolutely thrilling. My viewers will adore this glimpse into human territory's delicious dangers." They entered the main processing center, a cavernous chamber where automated machinery once separated valuable minerals from worthless rock. Now it stood silent, except for the occasional drip of condensation from exposed pipes. Grell, the merchant, approached one of the dormant sorting machines. These are primitive but ingenious. Humans always find such creative workarounds for technological limitations. Lyra was about to respond when she noticed something out of place. A power indicator, quietly glowing on a control panel that should have been dead for years. Her tour script didn't include active equipment in this section. "Hold here," she commanded, the authority in her voice, stopping the group instantly. She approached the panel cautiously, hand moving instinctively to her pulse pistol. No longer just a prop. The indicator shouldn't be active. Her prep team was thorough. They wouldn't leave powered systems that weren't part of the planned experience, which meant someone else had been here. Recently. "Is this part of the simulation?" Prince Quaylen asked, his bubble pulsing with impatient amber light. Lyra kept her voice neutral. "Just conducting a safety check, Your Highness." She ran her gloved fingers over the panel. The power source was jury-rigged, connected to a portable generator hidden beneath the console. This was recent work, not 17-year-old remnants. A soft, scraping sound echoed from the extraction tunnel entrance. Metal on metal. Not the pre-recorded effects her team had planted. The Dorak officer, Torvak, had also noticed. His posture shifted subtly, weight balanced, ready to move. Their eyes met, and unspoken understanding passed between them. This wasn't part of the tour. "Everyone," Lyra said calmly. "We're going to make a slight change to our itinerary. Let's return to the entry chamber." "But we've only just arrived," the prince protested. "I did not pay for an abbreviated experience." Lyra stepped closer to the royal, lowering her voice. "Your Highness, I believe we may have actual intruders. For your safety, we need to regroup." The scholar, Pella, adjusted her spectacles. "Actual danger wasn't in the contract. I specifically reviewed the terms." Another sound, distant but distinct, the unmistakable whine of energy weapons powering up. "Raiders," Torvak said, his hand moving to where a weapon would be if he were still in service. "Everybody move," Lyra ordered. "Back to the airlock, quick and quiet." They'd covered half the distance to the exit when the first shot screamed past, striking a support column near Grell's head. The merchant ducked with surprising agility for his bulk. "This is real," Lyra shouted, drawing her pulse pistol. "Get behind those containers!" The group scrambled for cover as three figures in mismatched armor emerged from the extraction tunnel, weapons raised. Actual raiders, not the actors Lyra hired for controlled ambushes, but genuine scavengers who preyed on abandoned facilities and occasionally unlucky travelers. "7 targets," one raider called out. 5 aliens, 2 humans." Lyra frowned. 2 humans? She glanced back at her group, all non-human, which meant, "Hello, Lyra," a familiar voice echoed through the chamber. "Fancy meeting you here." A fourth figure stepped from the shadows, taller than the others, wearing military-grade armor that put the raiders' patchwork protection to shame. Though his face was obscured by a tactical helmet, Lyra would recognize that swagger anywhere. "Drax," she breathed. Drax Morian, once her fellow soldier, now apparently commanding a raider squad. They'd served together in the Outer Rim conflicts, until diverging paths and principles separated them 8 years ago. "You know this human?" Prince Quaylen demanded, his bubble flashing with alarmed crimson pulses. "We have history," Lyra replied, mind racing through tactical options. 5 civilians under her protection, at least 4 armed hostiles, and limited cover between them and the exit. Drax removed his helmet, revealing a face more weathered than she remembered, a new scar bisecting his left eyebrow. "Giving tours now, Lyra? How the mighty have fallen." "Better than robbing abandoned mines," she countered. "What's the play here, Drax? These are registered tourists under interstellar protection laws." He laughed. "Laws don't reach this far, you know that. But don't worry, we're not interested in your clients. Just happened to be salvaging when you landed. Though, now that you're here..." His eyes narrowed. You always did have impeccable timing. Something in his tone set off warning bells. This wasn't a chance encounter. Drax was too calculating for coincidences. Everyone, Lyra said quietly to her group. When I give the signal, head for the maintenance corridor to your left. It loops back to the landing bay. And leave you alone, Torvak questioned. I'll cover your retreat. Drax took a step forward. I'm actually glad you're here, Lyra. Saves me the trouble of finding you later. You see, I'm in possession of something that would interest your former employers. Defense intelligence. It had to be. Drax had access to classified information during their service, information that would be valuable to the right buyers. Whatever you're selling, I'm not buying, Lyra said, shifting her position slightly to block his view of her clients. Not asking you to buy, just deliver a message. Drax signaled his raiders, who spread out, flanking positions. Tell General Hammond that I have the Carthage protocol files, and I'm accepting bids. Lyra's blood ran cold. The Carthage protocols were top-secret defense algorithms, planetary shield harmonics, automated response patterns, emergency override codes. In the wrong hands, they could compromise Earth's entire defense network. You always were ambitious, Drax, but this is treason. It's business, he corrected, nothing personal. It was all the confirmation she needed. This wasn't about salvage. Drax was using the abandoned facility as a dead drop for espionage. Now! Lyra shouted, firing 3 rapid shots toward the raiders' positions. Not aiming to hit, just to force them into cover and create confusion. Her clients scrambled toward the maintenance corridor, all except Torvak, who instead dove behind a different container, emerging with a piece of metal piping as a makeshift weapon. I said go, Lyra yelled at him. Former Dorak Special Forces don't abandon allies, he growled back. The raiders returned fire, energy bolts scorching the metal crates around them. Prince Quaylen's bubble flickered as he disappeared into the corridor, the scholar and merchant close behind. Only the Trill entertainer hesitated, one drone still hovering. Go, Lyra commanded again. But leave the drone, we can use it. Understanding flashed across Elia's face. She tapped a command into her wrist control, then followed the others. The camera drone remained, hovering obediently. Lyra fired again, providing covering fire as Torvak sprinted to join her behind a collapsed sorting machine. Your drone pilot skills better be good, he said, gripping his makeshift weapon. Watch and learn. Lyra accessed the drone's control frequency through her suit's systems. It took precious seconds to override the basic commands, but soon the small device was responding to her inputs. She sent it soaring toward the raiders, its recording light blinking innocently as it captured footage of their positions. More importantly, it drew their attention and fire, giving Lyra and Torvak the opening they needed. Maintenance corridor now, she ordered. They ran, energy bolts sizzling past them as Drax shouted commands to his team. The maintenance passage was narrow and dimly lit, designed for repair crews and service drones, rather than full-sized humans in environmental suits. Lyra sealed the pressure door behind them, buying precious seconds. We need to reach the others before Drax cuts us off at the landing bay. Torvak nodded grimly. He'll have sent someone to circle around. They hurried through the winding passage, Lyra accessing the facility schematic through her suit's display. The maintenance corridor branched in multiple directions, forming a complex network throughout the mining operation. Your clients, Torvak said as they ran. They won't last long without guidance. They're tougher than they look, Lyra replied, hoping it was true. And the prince's bubble has advanced navigation. They reached a junction where the corridor split 3 ways. Lyra checked the schematic again. Left leads to the air processing center, right to the landing bay, straight ahead to the living quarters. Where would they go? Torvak asked. Before Lyra could answer, her comm crackled to life. Guidecade, are you receiving? It was Pella, the scholar. I read you. What's your position? We're in some kind of central hub with multiple passageways. The Prince's navigation system is malfunctioning due to interference. Lyra grimaced. Of course it was. Alien technology, however advanced, often glitched in human-designed facilities. Describe what you see. Abandoned workstations. A large circular table with a holographic projector. Personal effects left behind. The command center, Lyra concluded. Stay put. We're coming to you. She turned to Torvak. Straight ahead, then second right. They moved quickly, but cautiously, aware that Drax and his raiders would be searching the facility. The abandoned living quarters they passed through were eerie. Personal items frozen in time from the day of evacuation, 17 years ago. Lyra's mind raced. If Drax had the Carthage protocols, his presence here was no coincidence. He must be meeting buyers. Their tour group had inadvertently stumbled into the middle of a high-level intelligence exchange. They found the others huddled in the command center, Prince Quaylen's bubble flickering erratically from the facility's electromagnetic interference. "What is happening?" the prince demanded, royal composure cracking. "This is far beyond the parameters of our contracted experience." "The parameters have changed," Lyra said flatly. "We're dealing with actual raiders led by my former comrade, who appears to be selling classified defense information." Grell, the merchant, paled. "Then we are witnessing treason against Earth Alliance?" "Witnessing and interrupting," Lyra confirmed, "which makes us all targets now." The scholar, Pella, was already at one of the workstations, her fingers flying over the ancient interface. "Fascinating archaic system, but functional. I believe I can access the facility's security network." Lyra raised an eyebrow. "You can hack human military-grade systems?" "My dear, I've spent 40 years studying human technology evolution. Your military-grade encryption from this era is practically elementary to me." Pella didn't look up from the console. "There. I have limited camera access. 4 intruders total, splitting up to search the facility. We need to reach the borderline," Lyra decided. "But they'll be watching the landing bay." Elia, the Trill Star, stepped forward. "My remaining drones could provide distraction." Grell nodded. "And I recognize this facility's mineral processing configuration. With the right compounds from the laboratory section, I could create quite a spectacular diversion." Lyra studied them with newfound appreciation. These weren't the helpless tourists she'd assumed them to be. "I have an alternative suggestion," Prince Quaylen said, his bubble stabilizing as he adjusted something on his wrist control. "My shuttle has defensive capabilities that your vessel lacks. If we can transmit an emergency signal, my royal guard would respond with immediate extraction." "Communications are being jammed," Pella reported from the console. "Standard raider protocol." Torvak was examining the facility schematic, displayed on the command center's main screen. "There's an external communication array on the facility's opposite side. If we could reach it." "We'd be walking into a trap," Lyra finished. "Drax will have thought of that." "Perhaps," the Dorak agreed. "But he can't cover every approach with only 3 men." Lyra considered their options. Making a run for the borderline was risky, but attempting to call for help seemed equally dangerous. Neither choice guaranteed survival. "We split up," she finally decided. "Torvak and I will create a diversion at the processing center. Pella, you and Grell head for the communication array. Prince Quaylen and Aaliyah will make for the borderline with my access codes." "Dividing our forces seems unwise," the prince objected. "It's our best chance," Lyra insisted. "Drax can't pursue all of us simultaneously." Reluctantly, they agreed to the plan. Lyra transferred the borderline's emergency launch codes to the prince's system, while Pella downloaded the facility's schematic to her personal device. "If anyone reaches safety, contact Frontier Station Security with code phrase Carthage compromised," Lyra instructed. "They'll understand the severity." They were preparing to move out when the facility's ancient intercom system crackled to life. Drax's voice echoed through the command center. Attention, tourists. This facility is now under my control. Surrender yourselves at the main processing center, and you'll be permitted to leave unharmed once our business is concluded. Resist, and we cannot guarantee your safety. You have 20 minutes to comply. Lyra exchanged glances with Torvak. He's bluffing. Once we've seen his operation, he can't let us leave. Agreed, the ex-officer said. And in 20 minutes, his buyers will likely arrive. Change of plans, Lyra announced. We need to disable their ship before reinforcements come. Prince, your bubble's environmental systems, can they withstand vacuum exposure? Briefly, yes. Why? Because we're going outside. The asteroid's surface was hostile in the extreme. Temperature fluctuations between scorching heat and absolute cold. No atmosphere and minimal gravity. But it offered something the facility's interior didn't: unpredictability. They exited through an emergency airlock near the living quarters, their suit magnets engaging to keep them anchored to the asteroid's metal-rich surface. Prince Quaylen's bubble shimmered with strain, but held against the vacuum. Above them, the infinite blackness of space stretched endlessly, pinpricked with distant stars. Stay low, Lyra instructed. Follow the surface contours to avoid silhouetting against the starfield. They moved in 3 pairs as planned, using the asteroid's cratered landscape for cover. Lyra and Torvak headed toward the processing center's external access point, while the others diverged toward their respective destinations. The minimal gravity made movement both easier and more treacherous. A careless step could send them floating away from the surface. Lyra kept one eye on her helmet display, which tracked the others' positions via suit signals. Your former comrade, Torvak said, through the private comm channel, as they navigated a particularly deep crater. You trusted him once? With my life, Lyra admitted. War forges bonds that civilian life can't quite match. Yet he betrayed that trust. People change. Or maybe they just reveal who they always were. She paused at the crater's edge, surveying the path ahead. The processing center external lock is 50 meters north. Once inside, we need to create enough chaos to draw attention without getting ourselves killed. Torvak gestured to a cluster of storage tanks near their destination. Fuel cells for the emergency generators. Volatile if damaged. Lyra nodded. Good eye. They reached the external airlock without incident and cycled through the decompression sequence. Once inside, they found themselves in a utility closet adjacent to the main processing floor. Lyra checked her weapons charge. On my signal, target the fuel cells. When they blow, we make for the control room. If Drax is monitoring communications, he'll head there to prevent any outgoing signals. And if he's not there, then we improvise. Ready? Torvak gripped his makeshift weapon, now augmented with components he'd collected during their journey. Born ready, human. Lyra counted down from 3, then kicked open the utility closet door. The processing center appeared empty, but her instincts screamed danger. She fired 3 precise shots at the fuel cell cluster. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the cells erupted in a spectacular chain reaction, sending flames and debris across the chamber. Emergency containment systems, surprisingly still functional, deployed foam suppressant from ceiling nozzles. Through the chaos, Lyra spotted movement. 2 raiders emerging from cover, weapons raised. She signaled Torvak, and they split in opposite directions, using the confusion to their advantage. Lyra ducked behind a conveyor belt as energy bolts sizzled overhead. Through her comm, she heard updates from the others. Communication array in sight, Pella reported. Minimal resistance encountered. Approaching borderline, came Prince Quaylen's strained voice. Bubble integrity at 60%. At least the others were making progress. Lyra fired blindly over the conveyor, not aiming to hit, but to keep the raiders pinned down while she worked her way toward the control room. Torvak had disappeared from view, but occasional sounds of struggle suggested he was engaging the enemy directly. The Dorak's combat skills were evidently not exaggerated. Lyra reached the corridor, leading to the control room, only to find it blocked by fallen debris from the explosion. She'd have to find another route. Her comm crackled. "Lyra!" It was Grell, his voice tight with urgency. "We've reached the array, but it's damaged. Pella thinks she can repair it, but we need time." "Hold position," Lyra replied. "We'll try to keep them occupied." A shadow fell across her. Lyra spun, weapon raised, to find Drax standing there, his own pistol aimed at her heart. "Always the hero," he said, his expression unreadable behind his tactical visor. "Some things never change." Lyra didn't lower her weapon. "Why, Drax? What could possibly be worth betraying everything we fought for?" "You wouldn't understand. You never saw the bigger picture." He gestured with his free hand. "The Alliance is crumbling from within. Lyra, the Carthage protocols are just insurance." "Insurance? They're the keys to Earth's defenses." "Precisely. And in the right hands. They ensure humanity's survival when the Alliance inevitably collapses." His voice hardened. "You think I'm doing this for personal gain? I'm securing our species' future." Before Lyra could respond, the facility shuddered violently. Emergency lights flickered, and a distant boom echoed through the structure. Drax's comm came alive with panicked voices, his raiders reporting simultaneous attacks on multiple fronts. The distraction was all Lyra needed. She lunged forward, knocking his weapon aside as they collided. They crashed to the floor, years of shared combat training making each anticipate the other's moves. Drax was stronger, but Lyra was quicker, slipping from his grasp and delivering a sharp blow to his side. "Your alien friends are more resourceful than expected," Drax grunted, rolling away from her follow-up strike. "Maybe you should reconsider your species' superiority complex," Lyra shot back, circling warily. The fight took them across the processing center and into a connecting corridor. With each exchange, memories of their past partnership flashed through Lyra's mind. Training sessions, battlefield maneuvers, victory celebrations, all tainted now by this betrayal. They reached the control room, a smaller chamber filled with monitoring equipment and communication systems. Drax seized a metal pipe from a damaged wall panel and swung it in a vicious arc. Lyra ducked, feeling the air displacement above her head. "The buyers will be here any minute," Drax said between labored breaths. "You can't stop this. Lyra." "Watch me." She feinted left, then drove right, tackling him into a control console. Sparks erupted as ancient electronics protested the sudden impact. The facility's lighting failed completely, plunging them into darkness save for the emergency strips along the floor and their suit lights. In the red-tinged gloom, they grappled with increasing desperation. Lyra's comm came to life. "Borderline secured," Prince Quaylen reported, his voice steady despite the obvious strain. "Engines primed for departure." Simultaneously, Pella announced, "Communication array partially functional. Transmitting emergency signal now." They were succeeding. Lyra felt a surge of renewed determination. But Drax had heard the transmissions too. His attacks grew more frenzied, more reckless. "You don't understand what you're interfering with," he shouted, landing a powerful blow to her midsection. Lyra's suit absorbed some of the impact, but the force still drove the air from her lungs. "I understand treason," she gasped, twisting to break his hold. The struggle carried them toward the control room's main console, still operational on backup power. Drax's hand reached for something at his belt. Not a weapon, but a data storage device. The Carthage protocols. Lyra lunged for it, and they collided with the console. Commands activated under their combined weight, and the facility's remaining systems began an emergency shutdown sequence. Warning messages flashed across screens. "Life support failing. Evacuate immediately." Drax's moment of distraction gave Lyra the opening she needed. She slammed her helmet against his, the impact stunning him long enough for her to seize the data device. "It's over, Drax," she said, backing away. Frontier Station security is already responding to our signal. He laughed bitterly. You think they'll reach us before the buyers? You've always underestimated the market for humanity's secrets. A new voice joined their comm channel. Unfamiliar. Authoritative. Attention mining facility, KX-12. This is Captain Reeves of the Earth Alliance Defense Fleet. We are responding to an emergency beacon and detecting unauthorized vessels approaching your position. Identify yourselves. Relief flooded through Lyra. The Alliance had picked up Pella's transmission faster than expected, perhaps already patrolling nearby due to intelligence on Drax's operation. Drax's expression shifted from confidence to calculation. This isn't the end, Lyra. Just a postponement. He tapped a sequence into his wrist control. What did you just do? Lyra demanded. Insurance policy. You have about 5 minutes before this facility's reactor initiates a meltdown sequence. Plenty of time for you to escape, if you leave now. He backed toward a side exit. Your choice, pursue me or save your clients. Lyra raised her weapon. There's a third option. You're coming with us to face charges. Always the idealist. Drax shook his head. That's why you'll never win against those who see the universe as it truly is. Before she could respond, the facility rocked with another explosion, more violent than before. The floor beneath them cracked, and support beams groaned in protest. Drax used the distraction to make his move, diving through the side exit. Lyra fired after him, but the shot went wide as the floor shifted beneath her. Her comm erupted with urgent voices. Guidecade! The facility is becoming unstable. Structural integrity failing in multiple sections. We must depart immediately. Lyra had to make a choice. Pursue Drax and potentially recover the Carthage protocols, or ensure her client's safety. It wasn't really a choice at all. Everyone to the borderline, she ordered. Emergency departure protocol. She secured the data device and ran, navigating the increasingly treacherous corridors as the facility began tearing itself apart. Pressure differentials caused doors to slam shut randomly, and air vented through new fissures in the structure. Lyra reached the landing bay to find the others, already aboard the borderline, engines humming with pre-launch energy. Only Torvak stood at the airlock, weapon in hand, covering her approach. Drax? He questioned as she reached him. Escaped. But I have this. She held up the data device. And Alliance forces are inbound. They sealed the airlock and Lyra rushed to the cockpit, taking manual control from the Prince. The borderline lifted smoothly despite the deteriorating conditions, thrusters straining against the asteroid's minimal gravity. Through the viewport, Lyra glimpsed a sleek black ship departing from the facility's opposite side, Drax's escape vessel. For a moment, she considered pursuit, but a structural collapse in the landing bay behind them settled the matter. They needed to clear the asteroid before the reactor went critical. The borderline accelerated away from the doomed facility, pushing through the asteroid belt's scattered debris. Behind them, a flash of light signaled the reactor's containment failure, followed by a shockwave that buffeted their ship despite the growing distance. Everyone secure? Lyra called back to the passenger compartment. A chorus of affirmatives replied, though Prince Quaylen's voice carried a note of strain. My bubble sustained damage. Environmental integration is compromised. We'll dock with the Alliance vessel, Lyra assured him. Their medical facilities can assist. The Alliance cruiser loomed ahead, a welcome sight despite the circumstances. As they approached, Lyra transmitted identification codes and a condensed situation report. Docking procedures went smoothly, and Alliance security personnel met them in the airlock, weapons not quite pointed at them, but ready nonetheless. Captain Reeves, a stern-faced woman with captain's insignia, stepped forward. Lyra Cade? She asked. Lyra nodded, handing over the data device. Carthage protocols. Drax Morian attempted to sell them. He escaped in a black vessel heading galactic east. Reeves accepted the device, her expression grave. We've dispatched pursuit craft, but he had a head start. You and your clients will need to provide full statements. The following hours blurred together. Medical examinations, debriefings, intelligence officers questioning every detail of their encounter with Drax. Lyra watched her clients handle the process with surprising resilience. Pella provided technical details of the facility systems and how she'd repaired the communication array. Grell explained the chemical compounds he'd used to create diversions. Torvak gave a military assessment of the raiders' tactics and equipment. Elia offered footage from her remaining drones. And Prince Quaylen, despite his damaged environmental systems, maintained his composure throughout, even refusing immediate evacuation to a Mibari medical facility until all statements were complete. When the formal procedures concluded, Captain Reeves informed them that pursuit vessels had lost Drax's trail near the Procyon system. He had escaped, for now. The Alliance owes you a debt of gratitude, Reeves told them in the cruiser's briefing room. The Carthage protocols contain sensitive defense information that could have compromised Earth's security if sold to hostile parties. Just doing our civic duty, Lyra replied, exhaustion evident in her voice. Your tour group demonstrated exceptional capability under pressure, Reeves noted. Not the typical tourist response to danger. Lyra glanced at her clients, seeing them with new eyes. No, they certainly exceeded expectations. Prince Quaylen, his bubble finally stabilized by Alliance technicians, approached Lyra as they prepared to transfer to a transport vessel that would return them to Frontier Station. Guide Cade, he began, formality unable to mask his changed attitude. I wish to acknowledge that my preconceptions regarding human resilience were inaccurate. High praise, Your Highness. Indeed. He hesitated. The experience, while exceeding contracted parameters significantly, was nonetheless educational. The cooperation between disparate species in crisis, the adaptive problem-solving demonstrated. These are qualities worth studying further. Lyra raised an eyebrow. Are you saying you'd book another tour? I am proposing something more substantial. The prince's bubble pulsed with thoughtful blue light. The Mibari Interstellar Academy lacks practical instruction in survival methodology. Your experience and teaching approach would be invaluable to our future explorers and diplomats. You're offering me a job? A professorship, with appropriate compensation and accommodations. He inclined his head. Consider it an opportunity to ensure that other species better understand the true nature of what they dismissively call the end of the galaxy. Lyra thought of her retirement plans, the quiet habitat on Europa, far from danger and responsibility. It had seemed so appealing before this mission. Now, strangely, it felt like hiding. I'll consider it, she said finally. After all, someone needs to teach the galaxy that what you call the end, we just call home. Later, as the transport vessel carried them back to Frontier Station, Lyra found herself on the observation deck, gazing at the starfield beyond. The others had retired to their quarters, exhausted from their ordeal. Or so she thought, until Torvak joined her at the viewport. You'll take the prince's offer, he said, not a question. Lyra smiled faintly. What makes you so sure? Because warriors rarely find peace in retirement. They find purpose in passing on what they've learned. He gestured toward the stars. Out there, beings from 100 worlds dismiss human space as too dangerous, too unpredictable. They'll never understand unless someone teaches them. Is that why you left military service, to teach? Torvak nodded. The Dorak Special Forces values experience above all. Our veterans don't retire. They become instructors, ensuring the next generation benefits from hard-won wisdom. They stood in companionable silence, watching as Frontier Station grew larger in the viewport. Its weathered silhouette no longer seemed like a dilapidated outpost, but a symbol of human persistence. Battered, but unbroken, like humanity itself. 6 months later, Professor Lyra Cade stood before her first class at the Mabari Interstellar Academy. 20 students from 15 species watched her, with expressions ranging from curiosity to skepticism. On the holographic display behind her, the course title glowed in multiple languages. The End of the Galaxy. It's Just Human Space. Practical Survival Methodology for Non-Human Species. In the front row, Prince Quaylen sat without his environmental bubble, a concession to his new understanding that some discomfort was necessary for growth. Beside him, representatives from the Dorak Military Academy, the Pella Academic Consortium, the Grell Mercantile Guild, and even the Trill Entertainment Network observed the historic first session. "Welcome," Lyra began, her voice carrying the same confidence that had once commanded troops and guided tourists. "You're here because you want to understand why humans thrive where others fear to tread. By the end of this course, you won't just understand it, you'll experience it." She activated the classroom's environmental controls, and the temperature dropped several degrees. Some students shifted uncomfortably. Lesson 1. Lyra continued with a slight smile. Comfort is the enemy of adaptation, and adaptation is what humans do best. As the class began in earnest, Lyra felt a satisfaction deeper than any retirement could have provided. Drax was still out there somewhere, and the galaxy remained full of dangers both known and unknown. But here, teaching others to face those dangers with human resilience, she had found her true purpose. The end of the galaxy was just the beginning of understanding.